Hey guys, this is Donya with Around Cass County Coffee Break, and today we are going to be talking to Gordan Pynes, one of my old school teachers. But first, I want to thank all of my sponsors, which is CMB Bank, Domino Federal Credit Union, Fire and Knives in Linden, Texas, and Texarkana Contractors. All right, we're going to find out a little bit about Gordon, what he's got going on here. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I was born a Texan in Port Arthur down on the Gulf Coast. Spent my first 13 years there, and then my parents, we moved to Victoria, and I started the ninth grade in Victoria, finished high school in Victoria, went on to TCU, Texas Christian, in Fort Worth, did 4 years there, was in ROTC in the meantime, so that put me in the Army. And so I went in the Army, had no idea that I would stay, but I got wrapped up in the Berlin crisis, the Cuban crisis, Bay of Pigs, etc. And so I decided to stay. And so I did a 20-year career in Army intelligence and did Vietnam. And after Vietnam, they sent me to Texas, University of Texas, to get a master's. I got that.
What is your master's degree in?
In Latin American studies.
Wow.
And so, in the Army's wisdom, then, well, I went to Mexico City for 19 months and traveled all over Latin and Central America. And so then my Spanish was pretty good, and I was, really ready to go, you might say, on Latin America. So, in the Army's wisdom, they sent me to Korea. So, I didn't help.
Perfect.
I didn't help my Spanish much, but anyway, coming back from Korea, I went to Honduras for 2 years with the military assistance group and the embassy, and was involved in a lot of things. One was a big, huge, terrible hurricane that hit the east coast of Honduras, wiped out banana plantation and so forth. Uh, Came back to Fort Hood and finished out my Army career at Fort Hood. Did a lot of exercising in Europe, especially in Germany, northern Germany. Uh, in the meantime, in coming back to Fort Hood, I lived in Lampasas, about 20 miles west of Fort Hood, about an hour north of Austin. A nice little town, kind of like Atlanta, about the same size and so forth. Three children, two boys and a girl, they all graduated from Lampasas. Then I went into coaching in Lampasas. I coached there 6 years. In the meantime, my dad, who was born and raised here in Atlanta, moved back after 55 years. My mother passed away. I decided I needed to get up here close to him in East Texas. Well, I got real close. I got a job in Atlanta. So I started coaching in Atlanta, track, cross country, football. And here I am. I'm still in Atlanta. I retired, of course, but so Atlanta is a big part of my life, mainly because I first came to Atlanta when I was 1 month old.
Aw.
My parents were showing me off to grandparents and uncles and aunts. I don't think I went over too well, to tell you the truth, but I did keep coming back most summers, Christmas, Thanksgiving. So I knew a lot about Atlanta before I ever dreamed that I'd live here. But
Right.
so anyway.
Well, like I said, he was one of my coaches and taught history. And I tell you what, he really brought it to life. And explain that just a little bit. We were talking about it earlier. The one thing that I remember, with history, you got to make it interesting. And Coach Pines definitely did that. Tell me what you would do for us.
Well, it's kind of athletics and teaching history kind of go together. My attitude was, first of all, whatever you're doing, you got to have fun.
Absolutely.
You got to like it. But if you like it, you're probably having some fun. So I use different methods of teaching to get history has been part of me ever since I can remember from being a little kid when my dad was telling me about the Atlanta Rabbits and Coach Rab and so forth. One of the things I did, which I really enjoyed, and I've had lots of kids since mention it to them. Uh, Late in the school year, be about April, I guess. We're studying World War II then, chronologically. So we'd come to the invasion of Europe finally, the Normandy, the beaches at Normandy, and so forth. So I would that day I would dress up in military tactical gear with a helmet and a ammo belt and a pack and canteen, the whole bit. So I'd start off with the room darkened, and I would have some marching music kind of playing up soft. In fact, I think I used the soundtrack to the movie The Longest Day, which was about Normandy. And then I'd have the broadcast audio of the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation's announcement of the invasion of Europe at Normandy in France. And then turn up the lights just a little more. And of course, there were two airborne divisions, the 82nd and the 101st, jumped into Normandy behind Normandy, 10 or 12 miles at midnight before the actual invasion started at about daylight. And so I jumped off my desk to kind of give them the idea of the jump into behind Normandy. So then from then on, it seemed like I would have kids coming into class for next year or two. And the first day of class, they would say, Coach Pynes, when are you going to jump into Normandy? And I'd tell them, you're going to have to wait about 8 months, but I'll do it.
That's right, and I tell you what, that is some of the fondest memories I have. I mean, when he's sitting there talking about it, I mean, I've been out of school for 30-something years, and it's like that is one very prominent thing. So what you do was excellent. So the real reason we're actually here today, he's got so many stories and so many wonderful things. If you ever get a chance just to visit with him, please do. But we've got a lot going on with the Atlanta Rabbits right now, and I want you to tell me what you've got going.
Well, way back in the late 90s, Coach Schornberg and I talked about a Hall of Fame for Atlanta because we knew Atlanta had a lot of good athletes before we ever got here. We also knew that we had had a lot of good athletes come through while we were coaching. But we stayed busy and we just never got around to it. Finally, in 2018, I told Coach Schornberg that, hey, I'm getting old. If we're going to do this, we got to do it. So we finally decided to establish what we call an Atlanta Athletics Hall of Fame. And so we formed a committee of 7. We wanted some historical knowledge of the Rabbit athletics and also the former black school, Booker T. Washington. Integration occurred in Atlanta in 1970, but Booker T. Washington had had a number of good athletes also, although of course they got little recognition or ink as compared to the Rabbit athlete. But we knew there were some good ones, so we got a couple of people with some knowledge that far back to help us with that. So then we started out the first year with what we call a foundational group to induct, and that was 5 people. We took first a baseball player, Hub Northern, who got into major leagues prior to World War One. So he was our first one, and then Coach Rab, who started football in Atlanta right after World War One, and for whom the Rabbits were named. That's a very unusual story.
Yeah, I want to hear that at some point.
And then a fella named Bear Allday, who was Atlanta's first really star athlete. Then we just kind of lucked into finding out about a Booker T. Washington athlete by the name of Jimmy Lee Hunt, who picked up the nickname Earthquake, which fit him very well, apparently. He was an outstanding player, was drafted by the Chicago Cardinals in the NFL in 1960. Went to play for the Cardinals, played, got hurt late in the season, and at that time, the American Football League was just getting underway, and they were trying to steal as many good athletes as they could from the NFL. So since he was injured, that put him on the injured list, and so it was legal for them to contact him if he was not an active player. Apparently, they probably upped the ante to him in money, and so he decided to go to the Boston Patriots, now, of course, the New England Patriots. He flew into Boston, went out to the stadium on Sunday when they were having their game, and the coach greeted him and said, "Well, Jimmy Lee, we know you're hurt, but we still got some games left in the season. When do you think you'll be ready to play?" And Jimmy Lee retort to the coach was, "As soon as the Star Spangled Banner ends, I'll be ready." Sure enough, he played that day, and according to the Boston papers, he had a good game. He continued then, I think he played 11 or 12 years with the Patriots. Of course, they became the New England Patriots, and he now is in the New England Patriots Hall of Fame, and we thought that was probably good enough to get him into the Atlanta Hall of Fame.
I think so.
Unfortunately, he died shortly after his retirement when he was coaching at the age of 37. He's buried here in Atlanta at Pinecrest Cemetery. So anyway, from then on, we decided to take 3 athletes per year and induct them into the hall, one being female, the other 2 male. And this committee has made the decision to who to put in. It's very competitive, actually, because we've had so many good athletes. We tried to go chronologically. We haven't always, because there's been a few that we missed. We just didn't have enough info on. And then luckily somebody would pop up and say, "Hey, contact so and so and such and such." And so,
And get the information you needed.
yeah, so we've gone back and picked up a few that we know we missed. But we feel like it's a really outstanding group, not just from their athletic abilities and accomplishments, but also how they've turned out once they graduated from high school, college, whatever. Some, of course, have gone on to play professional sports, especially football.
Right.
But so anyway, the whole idea was to keep Atlanta's athletic tradition alive and the pride that we have in our accomplishment. And so that's why we've got it going. We're real proud of the way it turned out. And I think more and more as the public knows about it, I think it's becoming more popular, I guess you could say.
Well, let me tell you, I was at the Lions Club the other day, and Gordon was doing some speaking there, and he's the one that gave the speaking engagement that day, and he was talking about this, and I didn't know anything about it. So the word is slowly going out. But I was at the football game Friday night, and you had told us if we ever go in there to look to the left and look to the right. And I tell you, if you haven't noticed yet, if you go into the Rabbit Stadium, there on the left-hand side as you're going through, you will see this beautiful, is it marble, did you say?
It's black granite
Okay.
from a volcano in India.
All right. Now, how did you guys decide on that material?
Well, that's a good question because, we wondered how we going to do this,
Right.
brass, bronze, etc. And I forget who actually mentioned something about this. And so I talked to Sturt Memorial Arts, gravestones in Texarkana,
Right.
and they rolled this out and showed it to me. And I said, "Hey, that's tremendous. We may have a hard time raising enough money to buy 3 or 5 to start with, but we've been able to do that, and they're just beautiful.
They are
Etched,
beautiful.
etched with, well, for instance, we've got a 1912 photograph of Hub Northern, and it etched onto that black granite, and
It's perfect. It looks
115-year-old
yeah,
photo.
it looks really, really great. So you were talking about the public getting some money. Do you guys take donations, and how do they go about getting money to you guys if they want to donate?
Well, now, kind of fortunately, I think we're right at the brink of getting a corporate sponsor that will pretty well do it for us, I think. So I'm just going to hold up. We get the details of that done. If I need more help, I'll certainly put
Reach
it
out.
out. But we've had individuals and some of the businesses here have been very helpful in
Getting it started.
getting it going. Yeah.
That's incredible. So what we'll do, I'll keep up with Gordon, and if there is anything that we can do as a public, I'm sure he will let us know, and we'll definitely do that. So you were talking of that you include 3 every year, 1 female and then 2 male athletes, just because there's not as many females as there are males out there. But didn't we just induct somebody this past week? Or has it been a while since we've inducted anyone?
Well, we just had to just put the three in
Okay, who was it for
at
this
the
year?
ceremony this past Friday
Okay.
night. Uh, Booty Jordan, who played in the early 50s, graduated in 55, 54, the last football season. Then we had Johnny Barr, who played in the mid 60s, graduated in 66, went on to play for Oklahoma. Booty went on to play for Baylor, but after his freshman year, he got hurt in a summer work accident and was never able to play again.
Mm,
And then the female was Casey Hendricks, now married. Blackburn's her married name. She was a tremendous softball pitcher, really in 2000 through 2003, all state 3 years, et cetera. Really an accomplished, and went on to play in college softball. Our problem with the females is that, of course, with Title IX not coming in till what, about 1980, I think, women's sport, the girls' sports in high school were very limited,
right.
and so we don't have the depth of a pool in terms of female athletes that we
Back
do.
in the
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
yeah. So we're going to be a little short coming up here in the future. It looks to me like, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can still uh, find a worthy female athlete. But we don't want to put somebody in there just to
Just
have
to
some.
exactly, exactly.
But
Well, I think
we
that'll all
feel
work
like
out. Yeah.
we've had some outstanding women and, of course, the men both.
Right, right. Well, I tell you what, like I said, when you walk through there, be sure and look at it because it really is a great thing to look at. Got a lot going on with the Atlanta Rabbits right now. They did just win over Jefferson, which was a great game.
Yeah.
It was a great game. So I really appreciate you guys listening today. Thank you so much for coming. Do you have anything else you need to say or any words of wisdom?
Well, let me just say one thing about the Hall of Fame. It kind of stimulated me in the second year, 2019. We had another athlete from Booker T, Washington, who turned out to be a rather famous Texas high school coach, a fellow by the name of Freddie James. And Freddie ended up coaching at Dallas Carter. And most of you are familiar with the TV program, the movie Friday Night Lights,
Mm-hmm.
which is involved, of course, with Texas high school football. So Freddie's team defeated the main team involved in Friday Night Lights, Odessa Permian.
Okay.
By virtue of that, uh, there's also another movie called Carter, and he's involved as one of the main characters, of course. And it was kind of funny in the Carter movie. The fella they had playing Freddie James, I've seen in a number of movies or TV production, but he's kind of a short and stout fella. Freddie James is a tall, lean guy. But anyway, the reason I mentioned Freddie James, when he was inducted, and at that time we had a supper instead of a reception. But he told me this. He said, "Coach, I'm in the Texas Black Sports Hall of Fame." He said, "I'm in the Dallas Coaches Hall of Fame." But he said, "The best thing of all is I am now in my hometown Hall of Fame." So
That's awesome.
that really hit me right in the heart, I'm telling you, and
Absolutely.
kind of stimulated me to, hey, let's keep this thing going.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all these wonderful stories
Right.
and memories, and I look forward to see what happens next year and who we're going to induct again.
You're welcome. Yeah, we'll get started on it pretty soon.
All right. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.